Alpha Omega, Part 10. Modern secular science began as a method for investigating and knowing, or finding out about, the structures and workings of processes in the realm of conditional nature. As it developed, the method of science was presumed to be a superior method in contrast and opposition to the superstitions, conventional beliefs, and metaphysical presumptions of traditional religion, based rather on the rigorous observation, conceptualization, and analysis of perceptible and conditionally arising events. Over time, the method of science has become more than an intellectual method for the discovery of specific knowledge about perceptible events. And it seems to have generally been forgotten that any knowledge of perceptible events is knowledge of conditionally arising phenomena, and that, therefore, all such knowledge is itself merely conditional, space-time bound, and relevant only to point of view and the human scale of concerns. Thus, limited, conditionally based science has, unfortunately, become the reigning and distinctly authoritarian official philosophy in this late time or dark epoch. Indeed, conditionally based science has become not merely a means of gathering natural information, but the very principal and exclusive model for the relationship human beings presume to the natural world, to each other, and even to their own body-minds. Thus, in this late time or dark epoch, reductionistic and so-called humanistic science, or scientism, or scientific materialism presumes to be the only officially acceptable form of relationship to anything whatsoever. Although the scientific method of inquiry may serve as a means of analytical knowledge, it utterly fails as a right and true form of moment-to-moment relationship to conditional things and beings, and to the totality of existence. The method of science is properly only a special form of relationship to specific perceptible or otherwise merely conditional events in specific moments and for specific purposes. If science is allowed to become the standard of relationship itself, the natural process of human participation, even non-verbally or non-conceptually, and even egolessly, in the always spontaneously arising play of existence is retarded, suppressed, and even destroyed. The scientific method is fundamentally an exercise of the verbal mind in relation to events occurring within, or otherwise events perceived via the autonomic nervous system. As such, the scientific method is only a very partial development of the potential of the total body-mind to perceive and experience. Furthermore, by its very nature, the scientific method requires a stark and strategic conceptual separation between the observer and the observed. When this exercise becomes the primary mode of one's relationship to things and to all experience, and even to existence itself, its effect is separative, and a kind of warfare or opposition develops between the human being and all its relations. Thus, science, which is a practical and conceptual exercise of point of view, becomes a hard-driven technology of personal and collective egoity. Scientific materialism has become the popular and chronic form of the everyday or casual approach of all people to the events of experience. As a result, the process of participatory relationship itself has become disturbed. Science would pretend to be able to create a true and superior human culture founded on technology and analytical knowledge, yet, in fact, the scientific method has no capability to create a true or human culture, since the scientific method is founded on analytical observation and conceptualization, rather than on non-verbal or tacit participation in the human being's inherent and necessarily ego-transcending unity with the total world of existence. Human beings are inherently one with the world process, or the unity of all beings and things and events in the cosmic domain. Human beings are only secondarily knowers about the world process. Therefore, if human beings adopt a form of relationship to the world process that is founded on separation, observation, and analytical knowing, rather than on intuitive and compassionately ego-surrendering participation in unity with the world process, then people would tend more and more to interfere and even lose sympathy with their own unity, both with the world process and with the non-conditional, intrinsically egoless, perfectly accausal, and self-evidently divine self-nature, self-condition, and self-state, in which they and all are presently arising. Indeed, in this late time or dark epoch, such as already occurred, human beings are now in the midst of a dehumanizing and anti-religious and anti-spiritual and anti-transcendental and even anti-cultural and post-civilization technological revolution of the entire order of humankind. The inherently conditional and point of view bound method that is science is no longer viewed from a right perspective. As a result, the unitive, intuitive, ego-transcending, ecstatic and participatory culture of humankind is being displaced and prevented by the authoritarian propaganda associated with the cult that is scientific materialism. My argument is not intended to call for an end to analytical science. Rather, the intention of my argument is to call for a cultural reorientation, even of the culture of science itself, to the primary mode of human existence, wherein human beings must constantly transcend themselves and all their conventional knowledge by means of surrender into unity with the world process and with the intrinsically egoless, transcendental, inherently spiritual, perfectly accausal, and self-evidently divine self-nature, self-condition, source condition, and self-state of reality itself. It is when individuals surrender separate and separative self that they are participating in human well-being and in ego-transcending spiritual growth in reality itself. Only individuals who thus surrender themselves can also apply themselves to the method and the data of analytical science without becoming deluded and godless. Only when the leaders and the general population of humankind begin to awaken to this understanding will true human culture begin again, free of the tragic pride of unillumined knowledge, even while also given to know and understand all conditionally apparent beings. Da.